everyone. Today we'll be coming from 1 Samuel. This is lesson 11 for the week June 14th. Wishing and hoping and praying. Our unifying topic, Hannah, a godly mother. We have three outlines today. The heart of a prayerful mother, 1 Samuel 1st, chapter 9 through 11. Second outline, the assurance of God's faithfulness, 1 Samuel 1, 12 through 20. Our third outline, fulfillment of hopes and dreams, 1 Samuel 1, 25. Our main thought for this morning will be, therefore it came to pass, when the time has come about after Hannah had conceived, that she bare a son and called his name Samuel, saying, because I have asked him of the Lord. And this is 1 Samuel 1 and 20. We all know the story of several women in the Bible that were barren. And they had a lot to deal with, because even in Bible days back then, considered barren to be almost a sin or disgrace. People didn't look at the women the same way as they do today. Just because you can't have children don't mean that your life is all right. But these here, they went back and they discussed, talking about they wanted a child so much, and some of them were past the age to have children. But even during this time when Hannah, it's supposed to have been like sort of a festival that they always go back to a certain town to celebrate. But everything that she did or wanted, most of it was just to have a child. So this first outline is the heart of a prayerful mother, which you pray, if you want something bad enough, you pray continuously. But the way her said that her prayers went, they were more than just prayers each and every day. They were heartfelt prayers, and the prayers that something that was very hard to do. And she cried most of the time. Not only did she pray, she wept. First Samuel opened with a domestic crisis. And that's what, family domestic stuff is. It's all within a family. But the priesthood of Shiloh is corrupt, and the ark is present, but the spiritual life of Israel is near collapse. God does what he constantly does that hinges moments of redemptive history. He starts with the womb. Hannah was one of two wives. Peninnah has children. Hannah has none. Because back then, the husband had more than one wife. So one wife had children, but yet Hannah didn't have anything. But Hannah was still getting the same right that the one that had children was getting. And, when you get something that you shouldn't get and the other one is getting, it makes somebody jealous. So, things were sort of hard for her. During this time, he had love for both of them, so he gave that honor to, supposed to be given to, the first son, even though she didn't have a son. And it's sort of hard to get in, I've assumed, in the same household where you can't deal with two women to start with. You can't. And then you got one that have children and one that don't. So either way, you're going to have problems, some kind of way. But he treated the one without the children just as much as he treated the one that had children. Anybody want to add anything to that? I heard him. It's good when a child can speak up. Our first outline, the heart of a prayerful mother, 1 Samuel, first chapter, verses 9 through 11. So Hannah rose up after they had eaten in Shiloh, and after they had drunk. Now Eli, the priest, sat upon the seat of the post, by the post of the temple of the Lord. 10, and she was in bitterness of soul, and prayed unto the Lord and wept sore. You know, she was bitter because she thought the Lord had done her wrong. But yet, you know God don't do anything wrong to anybody. But just that feeling that you can't have what you want to have so dearly, but yet, and she cried about it. In 11, she vowed a vow and said, O Lord of hosts, if thou would indeed look on the affliction of thine handmaid and remember me, and not forget thine handmaid, but wilt give me unto thine handmaid a man child, then I will give unto the Lord all the days of his life, and there will be no razor come upon his head. You know, she promised the Lord everything. Yeah, she was going to give that son over to God, but not from the time he was born, which will come up later. And see here, no razor upon his head. Yes, sir.
Well, you get ready to speak about what I was getting ready to say. She promised things that she couldn't control. So she had to be diligent in her teaching and upbringing that child to make him go through with the promises that she had given God.
Yeah.
She had to model what she wanted.
Yeah.
That's exactly right. Yeah, good point. She had to model what she wanted. And it took a lot of faith. You know, that's why we got to be careful when you ask the Lord for something. you got to be careful because because she said, I'm going to give my child up. Not many mothers want to do that. Mm-hmm. I'm going to give my child up. Yeah. But as you said, not right away. There was a weaning stage.
Yeah.
It's a weaning stage, not right away. And I don't want to get ahead of the lesson, but when Kenny said that, I just want to say it before I forgot it. So she made a vow. She made a vow to the Lord.
Yeah.
Hannah was desperate, and Penina, the other wife, wasn't helping the situation.
Oh, no.
She was going around making fun of her.
Of course.
I'm having babies, and you can't have any. Sure she was. She was taunting Hannah. And think of Sarah and Hagar, Rachel and Leah, and they came along before Hannah. So think about them as well.
Yeah, and well, you're doing that because you can think of it right now. Your man had another woman living with y'all. She having youngins, you couldn't. Would you be that good? Yeah.
That's right. Exactly.
Yeah. That's a bad situation.
Yeah.
Your man got a wife over here. They got children. You ain't, but you got to help take care of them children. But she didn't really complain about it. She just kept praying to the Lord and crying that the Lord would answer her prayers. And during all this time, like you said, she's going to get the child back to God. But yet, she had to keep that child for a while. Like you said, to wean him, to bring him up, so that in order, when she gave him back to the Lord, that he would be in proper standards. He would be someone that God can relate to and can use. See, most children, some people today, when they have kids, they give them away from the get-go. They don't want to raise them themselves, so they put them up for adoption or either just leave them somewhere else with somebody else. Any other comments or questions? Our second outline, the assurance of God's faithfulness. 1 Samuel, 1st chapter, 12 through 20. And it came to pass, she continued praying before the Lord, and Eli marked her mouth. And it says, marked her mouth. He was making fun of her, which we'll see in a minute. Now Hannah, she spake in her heart. Only her lips moved, but her voice was not heard. Therefore Eli thought she had been drunken. Because most people back there in the days, when they prayed out loud, because you can hear them. But all she did was sit there. Her lips were moving. No words were coming out. But Eli thought she was drunk. Just because she was sitting there praying and not saying anything. He didn't know what was wrong with her because her mouth was moving. He didn't know what was going on. But just because you don't know what's going on don't mean somebody's drunk. You're making up excuse for whatever you want to think. And Eli said unto her, how long wilt thou be drunken? Put away the wine from thee. 15. And Hannah answered and said, no, my Lord, I am a woman of sorrowful spirit. I have drunk neither wine or strong drink, but have poured out my soul before the Lord. And see, she was just being silent to God. She was saying what she wanted to say in her heart. It wasn't meant for everybody else because everybody else wasn't going through the same situation. So, it's like people today, they have problems. You could tell a friend or a neighbor, think they're going to help you out, but yet they're going to go down the street right behind you, talk about you behind your back. But whatever she said was meant for God and nobody else. And that's why, he thought she was drunk, but in her heart and her spirit, God knew exactly what she was saying and what was going on with her. 16. Count not thine handmaid for the daughter of Belial, for out of the abundance my complaint and grief I have spoken hitherto. 17. Then Eli answered and said, go in peace, and the God of Israel grant thee thy petition that thou hast asked him. 18. And she said, let thine handmaid find grace in thy sight. So the woman went her way and did eat, and her contentment was no more said. He said what he said to her. She told him what she was doing, what she felt like. And after all that, he told her to go ahead in peace. There wasn't nothing else for her to say. Eli.
Eli was praying with her.
Yeah, after he found out that she wasn't drunk. But before he was thinking that she had been on that bad oil or some wine or something. Because nobody would sit there and you look at him, that you see him say Ugly. If Ugly sit there and just kept moving his lips and not saying nothing, you don't know what he's talking about, you have to look at him and say, what's wrong with him? So that's what he did her until he found out what was in her heart and what she really wanted. Any questions or comments about that? Second outline still, verse 19. And they rose up in the morning early and worshiped before the Lord and returned and came to their house to Ramah and Elkanah. Knew Hannah, his wife, and the Lord remembered her. 20. Wherefore came to pass when the time has come about after Hannah had conceived that she bare a son and called his name Samuel, saying, because I have asked him of the Lord. And she named him Samuel because, Samuel was going to be a good man. Everything that God wanted in a person, Samuel's going to be there. Samuel's going to be a good leader. So she prayed to God and asked him for everything. And we don't know, you don't say how God answered her during that time. It's just to the end when she conceived a child. And in Hebrews 11, it declares timeless truth. Without faith, it is impossible to please him, for whoever would approach God must believe that he exists and that he rewards those who seek him. Although these words are written centuries after Hannah poured out her soul before the Lord, they form a powerful foundation for understanding her story. Hannah did not simply pray. She prayed with faith. Most time today, some people, you go somewhere, you say a prayer. It's just a routine thing. But if you don't have faith in what you're saying and you're asking the Lord for, it's no good. So that's what she did. She prayed in faith because she had believed that God would do whatever she asked. Any comments or questions? And 12 to 20, 1 Samuel, Scripture gave a vivid picture of Hannah's desperation as she entered the tabernacle. The text says she was deeply troubled and wept with grief, with great astonishment, anguish. And her pain was not imagined, and it was intensified by the constant reminder of Peninnah's fertility. Every time she prayed to ask God for this child, all she could think about was what the other woman was doing with having children. So that brought more pain to her. But still, she still prayed. She never gave up faith. Any comments?
Also, when she prayed, God didn't just give her what she asked for. He gave her even more. He gave her. She gave that child away, and then God gave her more kids that she could keep with her.
Yeah. See, that was the faith. She was just asking for one child, a son. But yet, when you're faithful, you said your cup runs over. So God will bless you regardless. As long as he knows what's in your heart, which he always does, as long as you believe and have faith that you can depend on God, because all the promises that he gave us in the Bible, he didn't renege on none of them and never will. Any comments?
That's right. That's right.
Yeah. And then ask but for one.
And notice, as you said earlier, and Ken too, I believe she was specific in her prayer. She requested a male child.
Yeah.
And God honored her prayer.
Because, that male child is the one that's supposed to get everything. Even in our time, back in the day, whoever the first male child was, it's supposed to be the one that got the inheritance. Because your dad and them didn't want to give nothing to the girls, because they were going to get married and put it in somebody else's name. So they kept that going that way. But it's always in what you have inside, whether you believe or not. And if you believe something, God will bring you through it. Any other comments? The fulfillment of hopes and dreams. Verse 25. And they slew a bullock and brought the child to Eli. In this verse, this is fulfillment of Hannah's dream, which was both personal and profoundly spiritual. Through persistent prayer, heartfelt supplication, and unwavering faith, Hannah experienced the fulfillment of a long-awaited hope. She conceived, and bore a son, Samuel, whose very names mean heard by God. So before the child was even born, God heard her prayers, heard her what she was asking for. And the two, before Samuel was conceived, Hannah committed the honoring of her vow. If God granted her a son, she would dedicate him fully to the Lord's service. That just don't mean that she just gave him to God, but she was schooling him and bringing him up so that he can do God's work. And she was doing this even before God has already put his hands on. But it's before anyone else could see what the outcome was and what glory she achieved.
And also keep in mind, Hannah did see her son again because she would go every year. So she would visit at the temple, the tabernacle, if you will. This is not Solomon's temple. That was years later. But she did see her son. And so the weaning stage, whether you mention it or not, depending on which book you read, anywhere from 3 to 5. So she had him at least 3 years, maybe up to 5 years before she turned him over to Eli the priest. But we can learn so much from Hannah here. She was a praying mother. And a praying mother can move the world.
And we all had one.
I'm a witness. A praying mother can move the world.
Yeah, because and during this time, her obedience challenges us to examine our own hearts. She didn't never waver. Sometimes we pray for things and we think it's supposed to happen right then and there, and it don't come. It may not come when you want it. Yeah, it's on time, and you may not even know it when it comes. You might be done forgot about what you prayed for. Exactly. And but Hannah had the faith; she never gave up. She stayed right there, steadfast in what she was doing.
She had a nerve to tell God what say she wanted to
She was bold.
Yeah.
And as Kenny said, she wanted a male child. She specified. Then she said, I'm going to train him as a Nazarite. And we know the story behind the Nazarite. Samson is the greatest one.
Yeah.
Don't cut the hair. Don't fool with wine or anything dealing with wine. And Samson violated all of them except the hair. All of them except the hair. And so here, depending on which book you're using, I'm looking at page 67. I don't know which book you have. Imagine the spiritual fortitude it took for Hannah to put her little boy in the hands of an elderly priest far from home.
Yeah.
Now that took a lot because a mother loves her baby. Now you think about that for a moment. I don't think I would have signed up for it.
Mm-mm.
I'm just going to be honest with you.
Not 5 years old. And see, that's one thing, 5 years old, children, they're in school. So they're past the winning stage. But yet, they had a lot to teach them. And at that early stage, to send them off somewhere, most mothers in here would not do it.
But that's still a baby.
Yeah.
3 to 5 years old.
Still one.
And you're going to release your child.
Just like she said a while ago.
But she made a vow.
Yeah.
In other words, you said it. She made a deal with God.
And she went through with it.
That may not come off too well in here, but she made a deal with God.
Yeah.
And when you make a deal with God, you got to keep your end of the bargain because guess what? He keeps his end of the bargain.
Yeah.
That's right.
And if it didn't keep that promise, no telling what might have happened. It could have been something happened to her. Something could have happened to the child. But like you said, she asked for a boy. Most women in here ask for a girl. The men wants a boy, but the women want a girl. And then, yeah, but she wanted that. See, then God gonna look at you wishy-washy. You can't be counted on.
Maybe I was running my mouth too much.
She might have been the one that Eli said was on the wine over drinking that day. Then she had to change her mind. No, we're not talking about her now. But also, like you said, Samuel became a great man. He didn't do everything right. Only thing he did right that they promised, he would not cut his hair. And then, we all know the story after that. He got some woman, laid his head in her lap, and she cut his hair. So that wasn't his fault, but he shouldn't have been sleeping and sleeping. It wouldn't happen to him. Ain't that right, Ray? Huh? Yeah, if he had told her about the hair, she would never cut it.
Yeah, he talked too much. And Delilah was all ears.
Yeah.
All ears.
And like I say, that woman had him trapped right where she wanted him, wrapped around her little finger. So he telling her anything and everything. At the end, she got it. Now the same thing happened today. Y'all in here got a man somewhere. You treat him just as good as anything. You do something wrong, you're going to take everything he got. Or you're going to try to. So, that's the payback because he didn't do everything that he's supposed to do. You got consequences. So that was one of his consequences. That took all his strength. But still, his mother got what she asked for.
And more.
Yeah, a whole lot more.
She got 5 more children.
And even doing those 5 more children, it doesn't say a whole lot about what God did for them, where he placed them at in their lives.
I bet Penina didn't run her mouth so much then. She was running her mouth. I'm giving them babies. You can't give them any babies. I bet she didn't run her mouth then.
And she probably didn't get another one either.
5 more babies after Samuel was born.
So that was 6. No.
That's right, because she had already, God had fulfilled what she wanted. That's a good point, Stephanie. And so she did. That's what I'm saying. You got to be careful what you ask God for, because if your request is in a line with what God desires for you, you're going to get it.
Yeah.
It may not be in the form that you want it, but you will get it.
Because a lot of times, if you're not sincere, what you ask for, if you get it, it's going to be nothing like what you wanted, and it could cause more harm than anything.
Hannah made a commitment to God that if she couldn't have a child to herself, that she would have a child and give it to God, and just the little bit of weaning time that she did have with him, that was going to satisfy her. But God gave her more because she was so innocent, and she was
desperate.
She was so willing to. She was desperate. She was so willing to sacrifice.
Yeah. And you know, it touches home for all of us, because at 3 or even up to 5, depending on which book you read, that's your baby. That's your baby. And you say, well, yeah, she gave the child back to God. And first thing I thought before I read everything, did she ever see the child again? And she did.
Yeah.
Because she went at least once a year.
All the time of festival.
There were 3 festivals, so she went at least once a year. So she did see the child again, but still not the same thing.
No.
Not the same thing.
Because most when she saw him, he just about grown up and stuff.
Yeah.
And was doing what God had for him to do.
She took him a robe every year. I believe I saw that too. She took him a robe. But the thing about it, God blessed her above and beyond. Yeah. He did. And he's still doing the same thing. He blessed her above and beyond. 5 more children. Yeah.
And I can imagine, or I can't imagine what she did with those 5 other kids. Because she didn't ask for one. So now she got all this other portion that God granted her. So all that crying, all that anguish that she went through, she got nothing but joy. Because the first one, she asked for a son. He's doing God's work. So these other women that were born, she probably trained them and doing the same thing.
Probably. We don't know. The Bible is silent. We don't know about that. And I wonder about Penina. As Stephanie said, I wondered.
Nothing else.
The Bible is silent about that.
Yeah.
But that picking, that taunting, making fun of Hannah, that came to a stop.
God put a stop to it.
God put a stop to it. And God is still doing the same thing.
Yeah.
He'll put a stop to things.
Especially
He's still doing it.
I don't know about y'all have children when they're born. That weaning period. I got a cousin that got some cats now. My wife got to go get. They wean, so they get gone.
You say cats?
Yeah.
I got some.
And so it's different with women. When you had that child, you birth them, you feed them, you nourish them, and you're not going to let nobody harm that child or that grandchild. You'll fight them to the death over them. But how long does that weaning period stop? Or does it ever stop?
Never.
Want to say something? Your mouth is moving like Hannah.
Hey, Steph, I see you acting like Hannah. Take your mouth is going.
Yeah. Oh, okay. But yeah, most people, when they get a certain age, like I said, 5 years they start school, they turn them loose. You don't see them all day, just homework time and stuff like that. But then, like now, some of us are grandparents. And the second time around, it sounds like it's better. Any other comments? Okay. In conclusion, Hannah's story teaches us vivid lessons in prayer: faith, grace, surrender, and gratitude. Further, it teaches us that when God fulfills a dream, it is never just for our joy. It is also for his glory. During her time in longing and anguish, Hannah had no idea the impact her son would have on the entire nation. Yet, she persisted in prayer. Like Hannah, we may have no idea how our longing prayers for God will fully impact the kingdom of God, but there are blessings in persistent faith-filled prayers. And the purpose of answered prayers dedicate back to God from the heart of gratitude. So whatever we pray for and we long for, if it's sincere, when it happens, there's so much gratitude. Like the crippled man, the blind man, God healed. One person he told, don't say nothing to nobody. But yet, they went around telling everybody. Just couldn't keep it to themselves. So if God does something good for us, we need to tell somebody. Because that's our testimony, and it's a situation that someone else can look at and see where they are and to help them move forward. Anyone else have anything to say?
I want to read what's on page 68, if I have your permission. Page 68 of the book I'm using. It talks about Dorothy Norwood in that song, Somebody Prayed for Me.
Yeah.
We can all identify with that. But the part I want to bring out here, this says, live a practice of unceasing prayer by whispering a prayer in the morning, one at noon, and another in the evening, to keep your heart in tune with God. God answers prayer in the morning, at noon, and at night. Hannah was a praying woman. No amount of discouragement could keep her from asking for God's mercy in attaining what she hoped for. God honored the desires of Hannah's heart, and God's word tells us he will honor ours as well.
That's it. I mean, as long as you got faith and you believe in what God says, the promises that he made us, all you got to do is be sincere in what you do and what you say. Everything will be all right. No other comments? Nothing else. That's all I got.